Okay, we're up to Siman Tes Vov Halacha Aleph. Says the Mechaber, Muta lahatir sitzios metalis zeh velitnom betalis acher. You're allowed to take off the sitzis from one talis and put it on another talis. Ava shelo lahanicham bebeged acher lo. But just to take off the sitzis, that you should not do. Says the Ramah, v'dafka betalis shel bar chiyuva. Dafka, a talis of a bar chiyuva, which is liable, which is obligated in sitzis. Avol muta lahatzis hasitzis metalis shel mesim. But to take the sitzis off the beged of a mace, of a dead person, that is allowed. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Sivkot Aleph. V'litnom, afilu metalis chodesh letalis chodesh. Even to take them off from a new talis to another new talis. V'kolshke metalis yoshen shemuter lehatir litnom betalis chodesh. Certainly, if you've got an old beged and you want to take off the sitzis to put them on a new beged, sheroitz lelovshav lekayim b'ha mitzvah, to use the sitzis, the strings, to use them on this new beged. Gam afilu metalis godel letalis cotton. Even to take them from a talis godel to a talis cotton, shetalis godel v'talis cotton shovim, because a talis godel and a talis cotton are equal in this respect. Not in all respects, by the way, because in Dirshun Mishnah Berurah note number 1, he says, Omam yesham dvarim shechalukim hem. There are, of course, differences between a talis godel and a talis cotton. Zem is zebedinom. Mishum shetalis godel miyuchedes letfila. For example, a talis godel is miyuched letfila. It's designated solely for tefillah, kameshakasav lekamon. Shemishum kein rashai lishkuvim talis cotton belayla avolum talis godel. You can sleep in a talis cotton at night, but not with a talis godel. V'chein chilek shom shebetalis cotton mutar lehikonis lebeis hakisei. You can go into a bathroom with a talis cotton. Avol betalis godel ein nochon lehikonis. It's not appropriate to go into a bathroom with a talis cotton, with a talis godel. Talis cotton, yes. Talis godel, no. Okay. Avol ein lahatir. Continuing the Mishnah Berurah. Avol ein lahatir sitzis metalis shel godel v'litnom b'shel talis shel cotton. You shouldn't take off the sitzis of a talis belonging to an adult and put them on a talis shel cotton, because the child's obligation in tzitzis is only, of course, midrabanan. The Prima Godim is mesupak. Are you allowed to take off tzitzis of a wool beged to put them on a talis made out of a different material? La poskim le'el, according to those poskim previously in Siman Tes Sif Aleph, the shar minim hurak midrabanan, who are of the opinion that other minim, non-wool minim, are on only midrabanan. Chaim mekil bazeh. Okay, continuing the Mishnah Berurah, betalis acher. So the Mechaber said you're allowed to be matir sitzis from one talis to put them on another talis. Ein b'prima godim shekosov mutsuyim lo sitzis acherim lahasik. If it's easy, it's very common to find other sitzis. Nochen lahachmish lo lahatir sitzi yosov im lo ba'ofen hamavur b'siman cotton gimel. Unless you do it in the way which we're going to describe in Sif Cotton Gimel. But beged acher lo ki yesh isur shemevazeh talis shel mitzvah b'chinam, because you're being mevazeh, you're disgracing a talis shel mitzvah unnecessarily. Im lo shenispat lo hatalis, unless nispal lo hatalis, unless of course the talis has become totally worn out. Oz mutzah lahatzis sitz yosef b'chol gavne. Then you're allowed to undo the sitzis. O sherotza lemachur lenochri, or you want to sell the beged to a non-Jewish person. O lasos me'atalis beged shelo yeh dalet comforts, or you want to redesign that beged that it no longer has four corners and is not mechuyev and sitzis. Mutter litla. In that situation, it would be allowed to take the sitzis off the talis. Avlim rotza limkar talis Yisrael. But if you want to sell the talis to another Jewish person, also likach tzitz yosef, you should not take it. Also, it's prohibited to take off the sitzis. Even though the second, the buyer, the Jewish buyer, could put sitzis on himself, it's still also. You are, of course, allowed to take off the sitzis from the beged to put on new sitzis, which are nicer, better. There's a hidur mitzvah. Or they're old and you want to renew them. Or one of the strings snapped and you've only got a kadei aniva, enough to tie the bow. Afal pisha daina sitzis kosher, even though the sitzis technically is still kosher. Afal pikein mutu lahosiv loses tachtea shlema. You want to take them off to put on, to make sure that you've got shlema, so you've got complete sitzis. V'da'oid, and no further. To b'mokum sha'tzitzis heim shleimim uruim linosim lebeged acher, and in a situation where the tzitzis are shleimim and they're able to be put on another beged lafukim heim rak kadeniva, as opposed to if they're too short. Yesh min ha'chronim shekosu diyizoy lahatz ha'kshorim va'kricha shalehem v'lo lafsikum likroos. Take them off very gently, unwind them carefully, and make sure not to tear them. You don't destroy them. Don't use something in a way that somebody else can't use it. In other words, you shouldn't pour something into the well that now somebody else can't drink from it. What if it's just too much of a tircha, it's too much of a bother to undo the tzitzis properly? That's not a problem of, you just want to just get rid of them. That's not a problem of baltashris. It's not wanton destruction. It's just saving you time. Then that would be allowed. So this is going on the Ramah. V'dafka b'talish shel bar chiyuva av mutar lahatzir tzitzis b'talish shel mesim. So dafka bar chiyuva, even if the chiyuv is only midrabanan. Okay, good. Halacha beis, sif beis. Ein yochel likach haknaf k'moshehu matzitz Yosef l'tofra b'beged acher. You can't just take off the knaf, the corner of the beged, and then put it on another beged. Mishul da'al kanfe bigdeihem bo'inon. V'knaf zeh lohe mibeged zeh b'shas hasiyah. Because this knaf was not on the original beged when you put the tzitzis on, and therefore you can't do that. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ein yochel, I'm Mogen Avram, Sif Cotton Gimel, Umuchach midvarav, the dafka knaf she'ein bo shir lisatef. We're dafka talking about a corner where there is not a shir lisatef, there is not enough of a size that you could actually wrap it around you. The after osru b'gemara afilu imhu machazik ama alama, even though the Gemara forbids it, even if it's machazik ama alama, it holds one by one alama. Gamza dain ein bo shir ituf ledidei. That's not the proper shir ituf for him. Avalim hoye b'hatchiva. But if there is in this piece of beged enough for you to wrap around you, you are allowed to then take it off and to join it, to stitch it on to another beged, even with the tzitzis in it, because at the end of the day, what you cut off is kadei ituf, and it has got enough to be used as a tzitzis, and so therefore you could cut off the whole thing and then attach it to another beged. Aval Taz b'sif cotton gimel paligal zeva oisa. The Taz argues with this v'chein mashva b'levush v'derech Chaim im hasitzios, with the sitzios. This is going on. Sif cotton vov is going on the first line. Ein yochel likach haknaf kamoshehu im hasitzios. Says the Mishnah Berurah, aval below hasitzios, without the sitzios, mutar lechabro im hu machazik al kol ponim sholosh etzbois. But if you cut it off with the tzitzis, so long as that piece that you cut off has gimel etzbois, by gimel etzbois, v'ach kach yatsa bo tzitzis, and then you apply the tzitzis, umikol shar habeged ein tzorech lahatzir klal, and you don't have to undo it from the rest of the other corners. You don't have to undo those tzitzis. But dafkim kodem shenis chaber leik haknaf hayegam bo chiyuva. So long as before you put that knaf on, that it was a bar chiyuv kagoin. Shlo nikra mimenu haknaf beigel. For example, you didn't round it. Avalim nikra mimenu beigel, but if you cut it and it rounded off, v'nasis bas gimel v'nifter mitzitzis, and then it became potter from tzitzis. Tzorich lahatzir kol hasitzis. You got to undo all the tzitzis. Or lahatila michodosh achad shenasis bas dalet. Once it re-becomes a four-cornered garment, then you would have to put the tzitzis on in that situation. Because otherwise you've got a problem of tasev v'lo min ha'asui. Okay, Sifkot and Zayin. So this is going on the end of the Mechaba. Says the Mishnah Berurah, if you want to undo the tzitzis, sorry, I've missed the line. If you want to attach that knaf, that corner, to the beged from which it was torn, but if it was totally detached, nothing was remained connected, you do not need to take off the tzitzis. It does not become possible from tasev and also given to tchilas hasiyos of a beged zehoy bekashrus, because the initial making of this beged was done properly. V'chol ze im lo nasis beged bas gimel be'es hakriya. So long as the beged was not a three-cornered beged at the time of the tour. V'chanal b'sif cotton vav. V'gam dafke maknaf machazik al kol ponim gimel al gimel. So long as the knaf holds 3 by 3 etzboi. So chusam chsif dalet. Kol zel ledas hashulchan aruch v'mogen avrom b'sif cotton gimel. Avla taz b'sif cotton gimel poisek she'ein nafke mina beinim atzirv lebeged acher or zeh gufa. It doesn't make a difference if you're attaching it to this beged or that beged. Hakol hu bichlal tasev v'lem osui. Either way, it's a problem of tasev v'lem osui. V'yesh lahachmir, and one should therefore be machmir v'chein posuk derech Chaim, and that is indeed how the derech Chaim paskins. Sif gimel. Talis mutzuyetz kehilchasa. You have a talis which is has got the tzitzis applied properly. Shechilku al. So imagine you've got a big talis and you just cut it down the middle, but each half has got enough to be a tzitzis, a talis in its own right. So talis shemutzuyetz kilchasa shechilku al. You divide it into two. Ubechol chelek yesh bo shir lisatef, and in each half you've got a shir lisatef. V'nishel kol achas mehem tzitzis achas v'shtayim, and on each one you have one or two tzitzis left. Ein bo mishum tasev v'lo min osui. You haven't got a problem with tasev v'lo min osui. It says the Mishnah Berurah. Ubechol chelek avlim ein bechol chelek kedei lisatef. But if each half is less than kedei lisatef, you could not use it as a talis in its own right. Kamoshehu shkiach b'talitos ketanim, like you find sometimes in small talisos. Shelonu shenishchalek l'shtayim ein bohem b'shir ituf. When you divide it into two, you haven't got enough to become a talis in its own right. Nispatel mehem tekav ha-mitzvah tzitzis. Then the mitzvah of tzitzis has gone, has departed from it. And if you want to join it to another beged or some other piece of material, then in that situation you would need to undo all the tzitzis. And if one chelek has a shir ituf and the other one doesn't, you only have to take off the tzitzis from the chelek, from the part which does not have tzitzis, which does not have the shir of kedei lisatef. And then once you've reconformed and reconfigured this beged, then you would apply the missing tzitzis. Tess. If you split the talis into two and each one has a kadei ituf, each side, each half has kadei ituf, then there's no problem of tasev and osui. Because the tzitzis that remain has no shame psul on them, because each half has a shir ituf. You can add to that material of the half sitz, of the half talis, and then reapply and add some more sitzis to it. And certainly you can take from the chatzi talis, which is sholim, that you can take from the two tzitzis which are new. And if you want to join the two pieces together, some say I'll take off the tzitzis, join the two begodim, and then reapply the tzitzis. Because if you don't do that, there's a problem with tasev v'nosui. This is not a problem with tasev, but certainly lechatchila one should try and be machmir. It's interesting that I think Baruch Hashem nowadays we're living in a somewhat more affluent world, and one hopes that a lot of these shilas are less prevalent because one can have a high standard and quality of tzitzis. Thank you.